Okay, Mackenzie, let's talk about the Compromise of 1850.
Alright, so the Compromise of 1850 was known as the Fugitive Slave Act, and it was amended for slave trade in Washington, D.C., and it was also abolished.
So, what did the Fugitive Act prove?
Well, it proved that the North was very unpopular.
Why don't you tell us the purpose of the Compromise in 1850?
I should have did this. Oh, are we still filming?
Go.
Okay, the purpose of the Compromise of 1850 was to transport a considerable part of the territory claimed by the state to the federal government.
Oh, that's cool. So do you know what the South gained from the Compromise of 1850?
The South gained California as a free state. They also gained money for their debts. And plus, they have a chance with New Mexico and Utah to be slave-free.
And the Kansas-Nebraska Act. So can we talk about that?
So, the Kansas-Nebraska Act was passed by the U.S. Congress on May 30th, 1854. It let people in the territories of Kansas and Nebraska to make decisions for themselves whether or not to allow slavery on their border.
So, Mackenzie, wasn't Kansas big on building farms and railroads?
Yes, in fact they were. The Kansas Act was open to railroads and farms. They also had the opportunity for voting for slavery. Did you know that Kansas had re-election and a lot of violence broke out?
No, I actually didn't, but that's a really cool fact to know. So I've heard that the territory of Kansas has a nickname. People call them Bleeding Kansas of the Death Toll Rose.
Yeah, they do. Now let's talk about how they had a new constitution. I thought you said stuff like that.
How we made this.
The Kansas-Nebraska Act had a new constitution. It was adopted by the pro-slavery settlers. Kansas was now not allowed to become a state.
So what happened?
On January 29, 1861, just before the Civil War, Kansas admitted to be the Union as a free state.
Wow, that's an amazing thing that happened in the Kansas-Nebraska Act.
One.
Okay, Mackenzie, now I would like to talk about Abraham Lincoln and his election.
Okay, the election of Abraham Lincoln. Well, Abraham Lincoln was elected as the 16th President of the United States.
So how many votes did he get?
Abraham only got 40% of the votes.
Well, that's sad.
Okay,
so let's talk about what happened in this election.
Okay, in the 1860 election, Abraham Lincoln won the party's presidential nomination.
Congratulations, Abraham. So, Mackenzie, how about you tell us what the election was about?
The election was not to interfere with slavery in the states, but it made the longer extension of slavery into the territories.
Oh, okay. So now that Abraham has won the election, no one can mess with slavery.
That is correct.
So I would like to know if there was anything bad about the election.
In fact, there was. Lincoln actually didn't want to win the popular vote. He won the election with 180 votes, although the Southern people didn't like Lincoln after the election.
Oh, it's okay, Lincoln.
Okay guys, as I'm editing this, I have realized that videos that we filmed on a Chromebook now refuses to let us access them while we edit. But no matter, because we have Mackenzie here to re-interview her for the lost footage. Okay, Mackenzie, can we talk about the Crittenden Compromise?
The Crittenden Compromise was an unsuccessful proposal shown by the United States Senator John J. Crittenden on December 18, 1860.
Can you tell me more about what the meaning of the compromise is?
Well, the purpose of the Crittenden Compromise was to avoid the Civil War.
So why was the compromise so important?
The Northerners said that they opposed the Crittenden Compromise because they felt like it was giving too much to the South.
Oh wow! Now let's talk about the Fort Sumter and the Battle of Fort Sumter. So what exactly is this battle?
Well, the Sumter Battle of Fort Sumter was the bombardment of Fort Sumter near Charleston, South Carolina by the Confederate States Army. This was the return gunfire and subsequent surrender by the United States Army, and this is what started the American Civil War.
Wow, that's so crazy. I would have never thought this is what started the American Civil War. So when did this happen?
The Fort Sumter battle was in 1861, April 12th.
Why was this so important?
Fort Sumter was so important because it's the place where the first battle of the American Civil War was fought.
That's cool. So, what is the what was the time that Lincoln suspended writ of habeas corpus?
The time Lincoln suspends right of habeas corpus is when Congress was called into special session July 4th, 1861. President Lincoln issued a message to both houses defending his various actions, including the suspension of writ of habeas corpus, arguing that it was both necessary and constitutional for him to have suspended it without Congress.
Oh wow, that's interesting. So what was so important about it?
Well, the federal issued Roger Taney, the Chief Justice of... It cuts off. Oh wait, never mind.
Okay. Just start over.
Wait, that's on the next slide, sorry. Is it still going?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the federal judge Roger Taney, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, issued a rule that the President Lincoln did not have the authority to suspend habeas corpus, but Lincoln did not respond and insisted that he needed to suspend the rules in order to put down the rebellion in the South.
Wow, I can't believe Lincoln would insist on such a thing. So I have one more question for you. What is the Battle of Manassas or Battle of Bull Run?
Well, the Battle of Manassas or Battle of Bull Run is a battle that was fought on July 21st, 1861 in Prince William County, Virginia, just north of the city of Manassas and about 25 miles west or southeast of Washington, D.C.
So why was this battle so important?
This battle was important because this was the first major land battle leading political pressure.
That's pretty cool having it as our first battle. Our land battle.
Okay, Karlie, so I would like to talk about the Homestead Act first.
Okay, so the Homestead Act was an attempt of persuasion for western migration, and this was done by giving settlers 160 acres of land, and that happened on May 20, 1862.
Oof, 160 acres of land, I mean, count me in. That sounds like a great deal.
Yeah, homesteaders had to pay a small filing fee and had to be a resident of the land for 5 years before they can actually own it.
Yes, I can see why people would choose to migrate. I mean, that explains the acceleration of the population at the time.
Yeah, it really does, and people could also get the lead by paying $1.25 for an acre if they have stayed there for 6 months or more.
That is such a good deal. Nowadays, it just takes like $100 and thousands of dollars to pay 1 acre.
Yeah, it sure does, and that's why the government distributed about 270 million acres of land with the Homestead Act.
Wow, that really is a crazy amount of land that gave people an equal chance to get a part of it.
I know, right?
Now that we're done talking about that act, can we talk about the Morrill Land Grant Act?
Yes. The Morrill...
Okay, let's just pause here a sec while we admire this beautiful scene called a blooper. Sadly, after this blooper, the Morrill Land Grant Act footage was lost. I know, sad, right? But that's okay, because I'll tell you right now. The Morrill Land Grant Act is also an act that deals with land, but in this act, public land was given to states and territories, and it gave an opportunity for colleges and educational locations to be built. I know, it's just so interesting. But that's not all, because the act also provided schools that taught things such as mechanics and agriculture. I would keep going about this very, very interesting topic, but now it's back to your scheduled program.
Okay, Karlie, let's talk about the Emancipation Proclamation.
Okay, so to start off, the Emancipation Proclamation was one of the biggest, most major things that happened in the Civil War.
How's that?
Well, it was an act of Abraham Lincoln that stated that all the slaves within the states were set free.
Well, I can see why that's an important thing in the Civil War, mostly because that's why the Civil War was like fought over, you know? But there were some limitations, right?
Yes, and in fact, it only applied to states that succeed or left the Union, but it didn't do anything to slavery in the loyal border states or states, part of the Confederacy that were already in Northern control.
And that freedom toward the states overall really depended on the victory of the Union.
Well, guys, guess what? We lost more footage. So that means we'll be here a while. So, wrapping up the Emancipation Proclamation. Oh, that's a tongue twister. It was basically a goal of freedom in the war that made people feel motivated to end slavery and be equal to everyone. This also led to the acceptance of black men to join the Union Navy and Army, and it strengthened them. And after this came the Conscription Act, but I don't want to do this alone. I don't want to explain this all alone. So, I found a last-minute special guest. Okay, guys, welcome Richard, who totally didn't just get woken up in the middle of the night to film this interview. So, Richard, can you tell us about the Conscription Act?
Fine, but I better get paid for this ahem. The Conscription Act made all males from the age 18 to 45 eligible to go into the Army.
Wow, so males of those ages would have to serve in the war?
Yes, but there were ways to get exempted. For example, LTHY people could pay $300 to have someone to be their substitute and not have to go to war themselves.
Back then, that was about $1,000 to $2,000. I bet a lot of people started getting mad, huh?
You bet. People started to riot because outraged protesters were angry that only people of TH could be exempted. And people also got exempted if they owned 20 or more slaves.
Wow, that's awful. People were treated so unfairly based on what they do or don't have.
Yeah, it really is.
Okay, well, I hope you guys enjoyed that clip of Richard. Now we are back with
Karlie.
Now, Karlie, let's talk about the Battle of Chancellorsville and Robert Lee.
Hi guys, Oh, the Battle of Chancellorsville was the victory of Robert E. Lee, and it was one of the most bloodiest battles of the war, leaving over 30,000 casualties. It was a battle between Joseph Hooker for the Union Army and Robert E. Lee for the Confederate Army.
Okay, before we move on, can we talk a little bit more about Robert E. Lee?
Sure, Robert E. Lee was a major general to Virginia and soon became a general for the Confederate Army. He was a battle strategist and became very well known in this battle due to his victory. He had decided to be a general for the Confederate Army, knowing that he would have to go against his hometown if he did otherwise.
He sounds like a very strong and interesting general. Can you explain more about his victorious battle?
Okay, to start off, this battle was set in the wilderness of Virginia, which is where Chancellorsville. General Lee had to strategize very well for this, considering that the numbers of the Confederate Army were at disadvantage compared to the Union.
Wow, so how did he manage to pull off this victory?
Well, Lee decided to confront the Union by approaching them with the troops split into two, which surprised General Joseph.
This sounds like a risky move. Did it pay off?
Yep, because even though the Union outnumbered them, General Joseph chose to retreat to defensive positions. After that, Lee split his forces again and attacked and made them retreat beyond the Rappahannock River.
So General Joseph kept falling back?
Yep, and after the Union fell back, Robert E. Lee arrived on May the 1st and planned his next move.
Huh, so it really did pay off for him.
Yeah, you probably have a lot of questions with this picture, but you know what? We'll just go with it. Because guess what, guys? We lost more footage. Woo! And you know what you do when you lose footage? If you guys become desperate and tired enough to make sock puppets that talk about Vicksburg battle, then you guessed right. Also, if you're expecting the video to match the socks' movement, yeah, no, it's not happening. Okay, Karlie, can we talk about the Battle of Vicksburg?
This battle was a victory for the Union under Ulysses S. Grant's command. The Battle of Vicksburg was planned very strategically.
Really, how so?
Well, it all started with S. Grant's campaign that led his army in southern Arkansas and away from Vicksburg. The 6-week travel finally went west to force General John C. Pemberton into Vicksburg after capturing Jackson, the Mississippi capital.
This seems like a very bold plan, huh?
It truly was, and the Union finished this battle off by 2 huge attacks that weakened the Confederate Army on May 19th and May 22nd. On May 25th, Grant trapped the army, which caused Pemberton on July 4th to surrender due to lack of resources such as food protection and other supplies.
Wow, I mean, that was a good thought-out plan that sounded like it really boosted the Union in the war, and I could also see it making Grant's reputation better, right?
Yeah, I agree. It also helped out greatly for the Union's control of the Mississippi River and the splitting of the Confederacy.
Okay, moving on after that is the Battle of Gettysburg. Would you like to tell us about it?
Okay, so this battle was one of, if not biggest battle in the Civil War in all in American history. The reason why this battle was so important is because it had the largest number of casualties in all the battles of the war.
I mean, I've heard of this battle before, but I never really understood how large its impact was in the Civil War.
It made a very big impact in the war, and so many attacks and events happened in a span of many steps from both sides.
How did it all begin?
Well, the battle began with Lee's plan to start the assembly of his army at Gettysburg after he found out that the Potomac Army was coming. Commander A.P. Hills went there for supplies but found that the Union came there on the previous day. Both Confederate armies, led by Hill and Richard Ewell, started toward Gettysburg, and their armies were able to drive Federal forces toward the south. After this, Lee's declined request to advance toward them by Ewell left the Union not a preparation.
The Confederate armies could have used their advantages there. How much did this affect the war?
Well, it made many favor Stonewall over Ewell, who was his substitution for the commander due to his arms from the Chancellorsville battle, and Ewell lost some respect because many people thought, like, oh, Ewell, come on. We had such a big advantage here, and you just wasted it and threw it in the trash. Apart from that, the Union also gained enough time to strengthen their defenses with the command of Winfield Scott and 3 more Union units to come and help them even more.
Well, it made many favor Stonewall over Ewell, who was his substitution for commander due to his wounds from Chancellorsville. Battle and Ewell lost some respect because many people thought, like, oh, Ewell, come on. We had such a big advantage here, and you just wasted it and threw it in the trash. Apart from that, the Union also gained enough time to strengthen their defenses with the command of Winfield Scott and 3 more Union units to come and help them even more.
Oh boy, well, I'm pretty sure you messed this one up, buddy, because judging by the Union's victory, I'm pretty sure this isn't the best way to start off the battle. But there's nothing that we can do about it now. So let's move on to day 2. Will you start us off, Karlie?
Sure. Now, on this day of this battle, there's a lot of fighting, and it estimated to more than 9,000 casualties on each side. This day had a lot of action, and I will say that the Confederate forces did have a better performance, but at the end of the day, it was a very bloody battle, and that both sides were impacted.
Very interesting. What were Lee's plans for this day?
Lee wanted to attack very early in the day, but his attack postponed to 4 p.m. This bloody battle was fought along Sickles' line, and within it had a peach orchard, or a wheat field near Little Round Top. Devil's Den. The Union was able to defend Little Round Top, but Confederate forces held the peach and orchard in Devil's Den. Confederate forces advanced on the left and right, but the Union was able to hold them off.
You know, this part of the war to me just sounds unfortunate to both sides. Please tell me day 3 is somewhat better, death-wise and all.
Well, on this day, the war kind of wraps itself and shows who was most likely going to win, which was the Union. It all started in the morning when the Union regained their strength and stronger position over the Confederate armies. They pushed them back, but more Confederate men were sent by Lee because he believed they were close to victory the day before.
Okay, I'm thinking that this didn't go so well.
Unfortunately for the Confederacy, nope. Lee's attack was met with George Pickett's troops, which continued less than 15,000 troops. This attack is known as Pickett's Charge. As Lee's armies attacked, they were pressured by men of the Union that fired at them from behind stone walls. The Union surrounded the Confederates, and after the attack, the Confederacy had to fall back with only half of their men left.
Half? You weren't kidding when you said the death toll for this battle was the largest out of the battles of the war. What happened after that? I mean, the Confederacy did lose, but did the Union do anything after this?
Despite Lee's expectancy of an attack to end the battle, the Union did not advance after this. Although the Union didn't advance, it was very clear that this victory belonged to the Union.
Okay, guys, well, our footage got lost again for like the 5 millionth time, but tonight we are going to talk about the Gettysburg Address with Karlie.
Alright, so the Gettysburg Address was an act of Abraham Lincoln as he gave a speech at a ceremony to dedicate those who died in the Battle of the Gettysburg.
So, what was the speech about?
The speech talked about hope for a new nation full of equality and time to appreciate those who sacrificed and dedicated themselves to a task they knew that would lead to a better life for plenty. He used this as motivation for the living to come together so the dead wouldn't be left unsatisfied.
From all the things I've heard about him today, I see that he was a very determined president who believed that all people have rights, and if we use them for right things, we could create a better nation for all of us. So that wraps us up tonight, Karlie. Thank you for this interview that we lost a lot of your footage of.
You're welcome.
Okay, guys, say bye to Karlie.
Bye.
I would like to talk about the Red River Campaign. Would you like to start us off?
Yes, the Red River Campaign was, and to be honest, since it was not done and planned out very well, it did not achieve much.
Really? And how's that?
Well, the campaign was supposed to capture all of the land near the Red River and land that was produced cotton due to the shortage of it in the north. But none of that was done to its fullest extent.
Oh no, what went wrong?
Okay, the plan was to have Admiral David Porter take some gunboats down to the river as General Nathaniel Banks led men down the western shore. And at first, everything was pretty good because they were able to capture Alexandria. But Banks was going way too slow, and he even stayed away from the river so much that the gunboats couldn't protect them from potential threats.
And just when you thought the plan was going to be fine, Banks misled.
And he also got attacked and was intimidated so badly that everyone decided to retreat back before even finishing the extension. And to add on top of that, the ships got stuck on the way back due to the low Red River and almost had to destroy the ships to keep them away from others. But luckily someone came and helped them out.
Oh my gosh, that is full of complications over complications.
Yeah, it just ended up until everything failed.
So, while we are on the topic of things that happened in Reconstruction, I want to know about the re-election of Abraham Lincoln, because I know it happened at this time.
The re-election of Abraham Lincoln influenced the collapse of the Confederacy later on. Then, this was Lincoln's second term, and at this point, the war had been going on for 4 years. He was re-elected to be president against George B. McClellan.
Was there any reasoning behind Abraham's election?
Well, a lot of people knew that McClellan failed to beat Robert E. Lee in Virginia, But not only that, a lot of people knew Lincoln to be a good president, and that he was once also replaced McClellan as General-in-Chief of the Army.
Since people already knew Lincoln pretty well and his good responses to his situations, I can imagine that more people would rather vote him than McClellan.
Yeah, and the votes really helped show that because Lincoln got 212 electoral votes, while McClellan only got 21.
I would say that a lot of voters supported him, like people from his troops that just respect him and all.
Yep, and his reputation sure helped him out with this.
You know what? Speaking of many confrontations, let's talk about the Reconstruction.
Oh boy, okay. So, the Reconstruction is basically when they fixed all the damage. Like the damage done by battles of Civil War, basically, and it lasted more than 10 years.
Who was in charge of the plans for everything? It was like 10 years was a pretty decent amount.
Well, a very important person that was part of creating the plans was President Andrew Johnson. He also shared his plans around the end of May in 1865, and there were about how he believed in states' rights, which led to a lot of land being given back.
Whose lands were given back?
The poorer owners actually got land back from the armies that originally confiscated it. And aside from all that, President Andrews decided to let the southern states rebuild a countryside, which led a lot of enragement in the north.
What made the North mad, like specifically?
Well, since the South was allowed to restore everything for themselves, they took advantage of it and created black codes and limited previous slaves' choices, which basically could serve them in labor force.
That's awful. I can see why the North was mad because it restricted what they would do.
Yeah, and this is only a summary of what happened during the Reconstruction. There was a lot of events that happened in this time period.
After the re-election of Abraham Lincoln, shortly came Sherman's March to sea. So would you like to tell us more about Sherman?
Sure. So, Union General William T. Sherman led about 60,000 men on a march of about 285 miles from Atlanta, Georgia. This march is basically just an act of intimidation by the Union towards those who believe in Confederacy, so they possibly might support the Union.
So Sherman took a handful of soldiers and they all made their march to sea in hopes to frighten people. But what led up to all this?
Well, this began with the fall of Atlanta due to a Union victory. And when Atlanta fell, many people in the Confederacy were really discouraged because Atlanta contained a large manufacturing community. Needed supplies were held and made there, and it also had a lot of railroads and other forms of transportation.
The Confederacy did fight back.
Well, the Confederacy tried to attack supply and transportation, but Sherman decided that 60,000 men would go fight them while 62,000 men and himself would go on a march basically to mess up things up.
Okay, so I'm assuming he's doing this to break the Confederacy down or make a point, right?
Yep, because he did this to lower the effort and hopes for the Confederacy by taking away supplies and Southern support.
Okay, so after this happened in Reconstruction, came Lincoln's assassination, right?
Yes, and his assassinations happened at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. by an actor and Confederate supporter, John Rose Booth.
Is there a certain reason he did this?
Many believe that he did this because several people thought that this would put the Union at a disadvantage and would cause havoc.
I heard that the plan was originally just a kidnapping. Is that true?
Soon after the failed attempts to do so, Virginia Lee lost another fight, which caused Booth to become desperate to find a way to potentially save the Confederacy.
Well, I guess it did throw the Union off a little bit. I mean, seeing from the results after this and the Reconstruction and everything.
Yeah, just a bit.
Speaking of the results after this happened, isn't one of them Andrew Johnson becoming president?
Yep, and Andrew was the successor for Abraham, and like I said before, when we were talking about the Reconstruction, his plans led to a lot of angry people in the North and bad decisions in the South.
I heard he got impeached. How did this happen?
Well, apart from the fact that Andrew's lenient decision led to unfair restrictions in the South against freed slaves. He also disagreed with the Congress about regulations for citizens and assistance with freed slaves and fugitives. These permanently damaged his reputation and eventually resulted in his impeachment.
Wow, Andrew was only president for 30 years, which isn't even a full term, and he caused this many complications.
Yeah, but after he was impeached, the Congress got to pass those laws.
Okay, so let's talk about the 13th Amendment.
Okay, the 13th Amendment got rid of slavery and involuntary servitude.
So why is the 13th Amendment this important?
The 13th Amendment was so important because it created a constitutional amendment that got rid of slavery in all of the American states.
That's pretty cool that they can just get rid of slavery like that. So what was the cause of the 13th Amendment?
The cause of the 13th Amendment was to protect the rights of newly freed people.
So let's wrap this all up. So basically the 13th Amendment was to get rid of slavery in all American states.
Yes, that's exactly right. 13th Amendment changed the most important laws.
So we have no more questions for you, so we don't really have a use for you anymore, so we can just get out.
Okay.
Hey, thank you though.
Screw you too.
What would you like to know about the Scalawags? Well, the Scalawags were referred to as carpetbaggers that were Northerns that moved to South after the Civil War. The Scalawags basically supported Reconstruction and the Republican Party after the American Civil War. The Scalawags were basically white Southerners who cooperated politically with black freedom, as you were saying. Scalawags basically worked with certain Northerners to gain money. They were in the war because they supported Reconstruction and the Republican Party after the war. Carpetbaggers. Carpetbaggers were Northerners who went to southern states just to purchase land. And at first they were welcomed by the Southerners because they saw it as an act of investment to help the devastation in the South. But the South soon realized that the Northerners were exploiting the land just to get rich. The carpetbaggers were around from 1865 to 1877. 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment granted citizenship to all the people born or naturalized in the U.S. It means that it protects certain rights of all people.
The 15th Amendment dealt with citizen voting rights and set them to where no person shall be denied this right on account of their race or past.